map is not the territory. In fact, if you look at, say, something like that loch there, or this waterfall here, you can see both of those things on a map, but the map doesn't give you a true sense of what it's like to be here in reality, to really experience it viscerally. So what's the point of having a map? Well, obviously, if you have a objective in mind, a loch that you want to get to, or a mountain you want to climb, or a destination, then the map will help you to plan your route, and it will help you to anticipate to some extent some of the obstacles that you might be required to overcome in order to achieve your objective. So would you be without the map? No, not at all. And this is actually a really important thing to remember in business, because as George Box, the famous statistician, said, all models are wrong, but some are useful. And thus it is with maps. You know, I'm here in the Southern Cairngorms, and to plan the route, of course, I'm using a map of, well, the Southern Cairngorms, not a map of, I don't know, the New York subway system or the human cardiovascular system, although both maps are extremely useful if you happen to be in New York and trying to get from A to B, or you happen to be a surgeon trying to save somebody's life. I'm sure both of those other maps would be very useful under those circumstances. The map doesn't tell you everything, of course. For that, you need to be able to actually adapt in the moment. But because you've already done your planning, because you've already planned things out, you're able to respond rather than to react. And that means that it's a measured, sensible, appropriate response rather than something that's knee-jerk and panicked. As I always like to say, panic never changed the world for the better, but it certainly has changed the world. So what does a map look like in the business sense? Well, really it's a business plan. You know, you work out what your destination is, you know what your vision is, you know what you're trying to achieve, you know what your overarching goal is, whether it's your big, hairy, audacious goal, as Jim Collins would have called it, or it's something more modest. You have a goal, and you break that goal down into manageable chunks, which you might call objectives or milestones, in order to incrementally get you closer to that goal. And each one of those objectives has a series of key results that you need to achieve along the way, if you will, basically steps within a plan, and those steps within the plan are typically behavioural. Now, if you're going to take this approach, if you're going to have an effective business plan, then it's helpful to be able to make those measurements in an appropriate way. Now, you might want to look at them as KPIs. Typically, we call that key performance indicators. Now, the thing about key performance indicators is that implies results, and results are, well, they're lagging indicators of success, because they're things that you only know about after the event, after it's already happened. What might be more helpful is a key predictive indicator, and a key predictive indicator is behavioural. It's something that you do every single day, habitually, continually, in order to be able to achieve predictable results. So in your business, if you are, for example, a lawyer or an accountant or a consultant, you really only have three pillars to your business. You've got to win the work, you've got to do the work, and you've got to get paid for the work. It's that simple. That's really your whole business. People tend to overcomplicate these things. So winning the work, that's really business development, it's sales, it's marketing. So you need metrics around how many prospective clients are you talking to each week? What's your conversion rate? How many of them actually give you instructions? How many referrals are you getting? That sort of thing. How many webinars you attend, how many seminars you deliver, how many networking events you show up to, and what results you get from them. Then you've got the doing the work. How efficient are you being? You know, what time are you taking? What level of time, effort, energy, resource, money are you actually employing in order to be able to do the work? And then there's the getting paid for the work, which, are you getting your bills out on time? What's your cash flow look like? What's your liquidity? Debtor days, creditor days, those sorts of things are useful metrics that will tell you whether or not you're on track to make money. So with whatever your business is, you don't need to overcomplicate it, but you do need to know your numbers, because the truth is in the numbers, but you pull out the insight using narrative and being able to read that like a map, so that you can plot your route and you too can get to your destination. Although I'd be very surprised if your destination's as pretty as that.